They say that money makes the world go round. It's not true though, is it? And yet somehow we kind of feel like that's the case. We've got this such a sort of mythology around money, and you understand why. You know, money makes things happen. It gives us agency. It can give us sort of status and significance in the world. It can give us power. It makes life more comfortable. It makes things easier. It doesn't make you less worried, does it? Not at all. And in fact, often there's sort of an inverted relationship with that. You think, oh, if I had more money, I'd be less worried. And then if you have more money, actually the worries just increase. It's a strange thing. And there's a risk, actually, that lots of what money does for us is very bad for us. It can build our pride. It can sort of insulate us from our need of other people. It can be quite a sort of isolating thing. And you'll know, I'm sure, that lots of very wealthy people have decided they're not going to leave a lot of money to their children because that's really bad for their children too. It's a funny thing. We think money's so important, and yet in so many ways, it's not great. And of course, there is a very significant inverse relationship between how much money people have and their ability to trust in God. So, I mean, really, like on very broad brushstroke statistics, the poorest countries in the world are often the most faithful. And the richest countries in the world, faith is in steep decline. Money is one of those things which makes it much harder for us to actually put our trust in God. And of course, Jesus' relationship with money, Jesus' attitude to money is really quite uncomfortable, isn't it? He lives with almost nothing. He has no place to lay his head. He teaches people to give away what they have. He says, I tell you, don't worry about your life, what you will eat, or your body, what you will wear. He teaches people to put their trust in God, not in money. And so we're going to reflect on that a little bit today. And the reason I'm reflecting on that is because we're thinking about the line in the Lord's Prayer, give us this day our daily bread. Give us this day our daily bread. And I think this is it's really important. It's a really kind of, actually quite a transformative thing when you take hold of this. It's transformative of our relationship with God, really. So the first thing to say is, we're talking about daily bread, and it's worth recognizing that the ordinary things of life are really important to us. Daily bread is that which it takes to sustain us day by day. And there's no sense in Jesus' teaching that our prayers should be so spiritual that we don't think about practical things. He's teaching us to pray for the ordinary things of life. And those ordinary things of life, the things that sustain us day by day, are a gift of God to be enjoyed. And I think the problem is often that when we have what we need, we don't think we need God to provide those things. And so that lovely relationship of daily praying for God's provision for us and then seeing God provide, we don't experience that in the same way. I think it's one of the reasons why saying grace before a meal is a really good discipline to do, because you're just remembering that even these most simple things are blessings from God. They are gifts from God. And those ordinary things are really important. They are gifts from God, but they aren't where real life is found. Did you hear Jesus said, for life is more than food and the body is more than clothing. That God's provision for us is there so that we might find the real life that God has for us. And so he says, give us this day our daily bread. Now, you can't understand that line fully without understanding the story in the Old Testament about manna. Do you remember it? Book of Exodus. People of God have been taken out of Egypt through the Red Sea into the wilderness. And they get there and they're like, well, this is all very well. In fact, they didn't. They just complained the whole time. But this isn't very nice. And what are we going to eat? And so God says, right, well, here's the plan. every morning you're going to get up, and as you go out your tents, there'll be dew on the ground, and the dew will have this kind of strange white seed-like things in, and you'll collect them up, you grind them and make bread, and it's called manna. And God would provide that every day for them. And there was this really interesting dynamic in it, which was that they couldn't collect more than enough for the day. If they tried to sort of store it up in pots, it would just go moldy. And so they couldn't do that, except on the Sabbath, where they could collect twice as much, and then that would last 3 days. And it was a really important story for them. They remembered it always because it was about learning to trust in God's provision day by day and not try and store up stuff for the future. And so when Jesus says, give us this day our daily bread, can you see actually it's a really clear connection to the manna story. Learn to trust in God day by day, and that's part of where life in all its fullness is found. And that's what I mean by a really transformative idea. Because the truth is, of course, life itself is a gift from God. But it is a gift that is given one day at a time. And so much of our fears and our anxieties are about trying to control the future and trying to control all of these things which are out of our hands. Whereas actually what God promises us is that he will provide not just food, but that which we need, the resources that are required for life, but only one day at a time. I'll give you what you need for today. Live life today, and then trust me with tomorrow. And he's faithful, and he will provide for tomorrow, but you need to learn to trust him. And the irony is that we struggle so much with worry and anxiety. It's not a new problem, of course. It's as old as people, and it concerned the people of Jesus' day, and he preached about it often. But it does seem to have hit kind of epidemic proportions in our modern world. And I wonder why. Because we seem to have more than people in history had, and yet we seem more anxious and more worried. I wonder whether it's partly to do with the fact that we've got better at comparing ourselves with each other. I suppose we've always done this, haven't we? But social media has made it an art form. I start my day by picking up my phone and then opening up some bit of social media where I get to compare myself to everybody I've ever met and think how's my life's going. So comparing ourselves to each other, I'm not sure is a really good idea. But also I suspect we think perhaps that we should be in control of life. And of course, life is fleeting. You can't really control it. The only thing you can do is entrust it to God's hands. Jesus would say, don't waste time worrying about the future. Which of you, he said, didn't he, which of you by worrying can add an hour to your life? No, he says, instead, seek first the kingdom of God, and then all of these other things will be given to you as well. Seek first the kingdom of God. Put that first. Once we sort of do the opposite, don't we? We sort of think, well, I'll try and get the rest of my life sorted out, and once I've done all of those things, then I'll sort of seek the kingdom, then I'll spend some time with God. But in actual fact, I think there's something really liberating about saying my first priority is going to be God and his kingdom, and I'm going to entrust him with the other things. And then when we're faced with our fears and our anxieties, to actually say to them, listen, I can't deal with this. I'm going to put this in God's hands. I'm going to entrust these things to God. That God will give me what I need to deal with today's problems and today's worries. There's enough resources for that. And then I'll entrust tomorrow to tomorrow. I think it's a discipline to learn. It's a practice. It's a good spiritual practice. And you'll fail in it often. But maybe this Lent would be a really good time, if we're talking about sort of living more simply, to say, right, I'm going to live today in the light of God's provision for me. I'm going to entrust him with today, and I'm going to worry about tomorrow. Now, what does all this mean? The obvious question here is, what does all this mean about sort of wealth and investments and all of those kind of things? And there's a real irony, that the people of God, when they're faithful, have often done rather well. Charles Wesley talked about this. You know, Charles Wesley, the great evangelist. And he used to complain. And he said, all these people, they become Christians. And often they come from the poorest communities. He would go around these very desperately poor communities. And these people would become Christians. And, then they would suddenly start to be more responsible with their money and learn to read. They'd get an education. And suddenly they'd be really kind of trustworthy, so they'd get better jobs. And then within a generation, they'd all got really wealthy. And it's an interesting thing, isn't it? And so it's worth recognizing that actually part of the blessings of God may be that we do have more resources to think about how we use them. And that is a blessing, but it's one that we need to hold carefully. Not least because the thing is, when we have more resources, we start to trust in those rather than trusting in God. So I think it's worth sort of recognizing that wealth can be a blessing, but you need to treat it really carefully because you can start to put your trust in it rather than put your trust in God. Paul puts it really clearly. Hear this. This is Paul's words in 1 Timothy. Warn those who are rich in this present age, not to be conceited, not to put their trust in the uncertainty of wealth, but to put their trust in God, who richly provides all things for us to enjoy. Instruct them to do good, to be rich in good works, and to be generous, storing up treasure in heaven, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. Isn't that striking? I mean, that's really, really good advice. Do that which helps you to take hold of the thing which is really life, which is found in God. A couple more reflections before I end. One is a really interesting one. So this is the word that Jesus uses for daily bread. The word that Jesus uses for daily bread is only used in this context. It's a Greek word, epiousios, and it means daily on a simple level, but actually there's another word he could easily have used for daily bread. There's a normal word for daily, and he doesn't. He chooses this other word, epiousios, and it's got this sort of a really interesting sense that it's there's a sort of otherness about this word. It can be translated daily, but it kind of has this sense of something more. And so you'll sometimes see this translated as bread from above. Give us this day the bread from above, or the bread that is more than bread. And it's a really interesting sense in the fact that this provision of God, day by day, has in it a little taste of heaven, a little taste of eternity. That by learning to trust in God day by day, you're sort of being fed on heavenly bread. Almost as if this is a sort of little foretaste of how it will be in eternity. Because, of course, in eternity, there won't be any bank balance. There won't be any credit cards. We will trust in God day by day, and he will provide for us, and we will rejoice in that. So isn't that a really interesting idea? As you're praying this prayer, give us this day our daily bread, you're sort of experiencing something of how it will be in eternity. And then I suppose the last thing is just, I don't think you can pray this prayer without thinking of communion. You know, when Jesus says, give us this day our daily bread, of course, the bread that he provides for us most profoundly is his body broken, the means by which our sins are forgiven, and we get to participate in the life of God. And as we sort of come forward for communion, we find that sort of spiritual nourishment, that wholeness which sustains us through life and helps us to kind of have something of that life which is more than life. So there we go. Give us this day our daily bread. This season of Lent is about simplifying, of cutting back, of consuming less. But it's also about sort of living more fully, I think, by living in the presence of God. And so I would encourage you, as I have been doing, to be praying this prayer day by day. Pray it each morning or each evening as is suitable for you. And this week, just take a moment as you pray that line to give us this day our daily bread, to say, yes, Lord, I want to live like that today. I want to trust in your provision for me today and entrust the future into your hands because you are trustworthy. I want to learn to depend on you and to trust in you rather than all the other things I put my trust in. And like the manna in the desert, I'll take what I need for today, but I won't try and store it all up for tomorrow. And I'll be grateful. I'll be grateful for God's simple provision of life one day at a time, and I will rejoice in all that this day has to offer, and I will trust that God will be faithful tomorrow. Amen. This prayer. Lord God, you have renewed us with the living bread from heaven. By it you nourish our faith, increase our hope, and strengthen our love. Teach us always to hunger for him who is the true and living bread, and enable us to live by every word that proceeds out of your mouth, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.